Yo, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic episode of Keeping It Geekly. It's your Cape Crusader, Cody, and we're hanging out with our new friend, J. Michael Donohue. We're here to break down MORSELS Presents One Good Scare and everything in between. Jay, I had the chance to read this. I loved it. Before we dive into the goods, though, I want to dive into you as a creator. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, man. I guess you said it. My name's J. Michael Donohue. I'm a, I would say I'm a comic book writer. Everybody wants to say they're aspiring, but I write comics.
Yes.
May not be for DC, may not be for, Marvel, whatever, but I write comics. I've completed them. So I've been doing that for comics for maybe the last 5 or 6 years. And really it just kind of started with doing a bunch of short stories, trying to build my portfolio, meeting different artists, things like that, which, through the time I've met some of my best friends and collaborators and things like that from doing different projects. And Morsels, which was my first book, was just a kind of a collection of all of my, like a portfolio is the way I looked at it. It was just kind of a fun way to show what I've done, to have my first book, and then from there it's just kind of, I've kind of evolved from there.
So I have you down for Together Forever, with work featured in Hyper Epics as well as Project Big Hype. Project Big Hype's awesome. We had Doug on the show a couple of times. What really pushed you to start writing? I mean, I know we were talking backstage, and it always sucks. Sometimes the backstage banner is so good, it's like, I wish I could find a way to edit this into the podcast. But like, what was your big your big push? I know we mentioned a show that kind of inspired you a little bit. I remember reading a spooky story. It was like Spooky Stories to Tell at Night. I don't know. I remember they were like horrifically gruesome and scary in children's libraries, and it was just like
scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yes, and there was like this lady that had like the coin eyes, and you just see the silver dots in the night, and I just remember that just stuck with me for years.
Oh yeah.
What was your big push?
Oh man, I would probably have to say, I remember getting, like a lot of people, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the sequel collection that they did. Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Really, if it was horror, I loved it. I am not, there was one, I am not going to remember the title of the series, but this one was even more of something for like little kids, but it was like Teacher from the Black Lagoon, and it was always like a kid, and like a substitute teacher came in, and they, in their imagination, they're like, oh my God, I've heard she's this awful monster, and she does, and it shows her, as like just this aquatic creature, and then in the end she comes in, oh wait, no, she's actually a really nice teacher. And like they did this for, I feel like, librarians, principals, like
gym teacher.
Always gym teacher.
My son is obsessed with the gym. You're saying that, and I'm like, dude, there's no way that this is the same book from that series. Yeah, the gym teacher one. He's obsessed with. We read it like every day almost.
Oh yeah, I loved those even as a kid. And then I think it's just as I went on, at one point I remember, I had a dream to be cartoonist, because I always liked to doodle, always liked to draw, but never really pursued it to a level that I should have, and so then at some point I really liked writing, and so I think that was just kind of where my passion was. And so throughout the years I've always written scripts for movies or short stories, taking creative writing classes. I've always loved to do that. Had always been interested in comics, and I think I think the biggest mistake for people starting to write comics or to get into the industry is, I always had this idea of, oh hey, I got something for a 20-issue series, oh this will be amazing, oh I gotta pitch this, I gotta write everything. I'm nobody who's gonna say, yeah, hey, here's all the money, let's produce this 20-issue series. There's a step ladder in a way. And so I got some really good advice to start small, especially because as a writer, if I can't draw my own stuff, I've got to pay an artist to do it. Pay a colorist if they don't do colors. Pay, you know, the letterer, which is just as important. And then when you get into books, you've got cover artists, you know, a person to create your logo. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But, you know, I started with short stories. That's kind of how I met I call him my PIC, my partner in comics, but Jeremiah Sheik. He's a fantastic artist. We've done multiple stories together, a couple for Hyper Epics, which you said, you know what I mean, kind of my back catalog. And yeah, you know, he started where I just had this 3-page idea for a story. I put it out on Twitter back before it became the hellscape that it is, and was like, hey, anybody want to, you know, collaborate? He was one of the first people to comment, you know, looked at the stuff. We started talking. We really vibed, liked a lot of the same stuff, you know, Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show, all that stuff. And so we did our first story, and that's kind of, you know, the rest is history after that.
Yeah, I remember Tales from the Crypt, watching all sorts of horrors. Chucky, Jason, of course, Freddy, and then Stephen King. I mean, dude, it's like I feel like as children, we probably grew up in the prime era of horror, right?
Yeah, you know, I was born in 84. You know, I don't remember much. Like, I was alive during, I feel like, to me, the 80s is the prime, but probably the 90s is what I really remember the best. Not that I haven't, you know, I don't gorge myself on all the, you know, horror movies from 70s, 80s, and things like that. But yeah, I think we had I mean, it was just crazy, you know, how much we had, especially if you look at like cartoons and media, and you're just kind of like the difference between what they have now today
Yeah.
and what we used to have. I mean, the fact that you know, Ghostbusters, you had, you know, this big movie, right? And everybody loved it. All the kids want to be a Ghostbusters. You had the Ghostbusters cartoons, which, you know, could be pretty creepy among themselves. And while I think that one lends itself well to a kid show and a well cartoon, I mean, there was also a Tales from the Crypt cartoon that didn't have very long, you know, towards kids. I mean, there were tons of these adult oriented IPs that they're like, hey, let's make kid shows out of it. I mean, Beetlejuice, I mean,
which is insane, right?
Oh yeah, and especially because, I mean, I love Beetlejuice, and don't get me wrong, it's not I think, you know, horrible by any means. I mean, it's, or I guess not appropriate for kids of a certain age, you know. But like, that's one of my daughter's favorite movies. Like, that's kind of been her gateway into tiptoeing into horror. And it's like, I hadn't seen it forever. When I sat down and watched it with her, I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is a little much for her. I hope it's.
Oh yeah. Well, you forget how insane that dialogue gets.
Oh yeah. For sure. And you know what's funny? Beetlejuice, I guess I get in this, my train of thought is, that was probably one of my first Tim Burton movies, and first scarier movies, maybe. I'm trying to think when I first saw it, but what's funny about that movie is I saw it by accident. My parents were on vacation. I was staying with one of my aunts. She's probably one of my coolest aunts. But she was like, oh, you know, we'll take you to the movie, or to Blockbuster. We rented a movie. And I rented this Scooby-Doo movie. She's like, yeah, you know, of course you can watch that. Well, somebody mixed up the tapes. They put, no, it wasn't Beetlejuice. It was Edward Scissorhands. That's what it was.
Oh God.
And somebody put that in there instead of the Scooby movie. So I put it in. I'm like, this isn't a cartoon. What is wrong with this? And I'm like, this is different. I told my aunt. She's like, oh, well, you can watch it anyway. I'm like, okay.
Hey, well, thanks for letting me get away with the goods, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I remember, because I was born '89, so not too long after. Man, seeing things like House on Haunted Hill, what was it? 13? Is it 13? 13 Ghosts, like with like the
13 Ghosts, yep.
Yeah, oh man, that thing was, I love that movie so much, dude. And the beauty of it is there's so much different types of horror. Everyone, I think, at face value thinks of horror just like a slasher or you know, spooky, scary. But things like the Terminator, right, was a horror movie, which I always thought of it as like just like an insane action movie. I never thought of it as like a horror, but I guess there's horror roots in that too.
Sure.
What horror draws you the most?
Oh gosh, you know, I've always loved the slashers. I mean, those are always fun. Halloween's probably one of my all-time favorite horror movies. I've always loved watching the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Streets. I mean, they're fun, you know, sit around with your friends and hang out and watch type movies. But I'm trying to think, you know, that's where I've always found. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of jumped into different, you know, expanded in different genres. Watching, of course, you know, I'll watch whatever. But I feel like I've found in my writing, I almost try to pick out different genres that I haven't either written in, or maybe I haven't seen in a while, or just to kind of to branch out. You know, for instance, like Morsels, you know, it kind of jumped around a lot. I feel like there was a werewolf story in it. There was a kaiju story in it. Monster Under the Bed, Boogeyman. I mean, I just kind of played around, and I really like to. It's fun to kind of look for inspiration in different cultures and try and as appropriately as I can kind of bring it in and to our culture, or just kind of shine a light on it.
Yeah.
Because like my book Graveyard Shift that I did, that's the first in my Addison Grove series, and that had and I'm going to butcher this, a Gosho Dokuro, which is basically a Japanese yokai, and it's just all of these you know, lost souls, or you know, people that have been wrongfully killed or anything like that. Their bones all just come together to create one giant skeleton, and it's like you hear it in the darkness because its teeth clatter. And so
I love that, dude.
Yeah,
Jesus.
And so I mean, it's supposed to be like, yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be like you know, 15 feet tall, and I mean, then it grabs people and it'll eat, you know, it eats them, chases them down. And so I loved that. You know, Family Matters, I played around with werewolves and serial killers, and that that one's a special story. I mean, that one, it's amazing. That's probably been sitting on my hard drive for like 10 years. It was a story that I've had that's been like a short, you know, screenplay to a comic and different iterations, and finally, you know, came together last year. So I was super excited about that one.
So when writing horror, what are some of the more important beats for you to hit? Like, what are you looking to accomplish when you're writing a script?
I would say it depends on what series I'm going for. Like Addison Grove, those are a little bit longer. That one's been kind of fun to play with because I have this little like Easter egg of a character that's popped up in the first issues, and while it's just kind of a fun lead up because that's going to be the star of the final issue. And so it's just kind of a fun, you know, thread to kind of keep everything together. But those ones I find are a little more darker, a little more serious. Not to say that there isn't some kind of dark humor in it by no means, but I just try to have a different tone with those than maybe I would do with like Morsels. Like Morsels Presents, like I see as, and the first Morsels was my dedication and my homage to Creepshow. And I just love how it's just these mean little dark sucker punches to the stomach. And so I kind of shoot to have these little, you know, twists at the end and try and kind of play with audiences' expectations and see if I can kind of catch them off guard. You know, and a lot of them, some people are like, oh man, dude, I never saw that coming. Some of them are like, well, I saw it coming, but I still loved it, which I'll take too.
So speaking of Morsels, we have the pre-launch link. It'll be launching on March 2nd. You guys can sign up right here. The link is in chat. We're going to be pulling it up and taking a deeper look at it and some of the interiors. I really, really enjoyed reading this. I mean, you know, it felt like one of the horrors you could read as a kid, right? That it's fun. It's disturbing. You know, I probably wouldn't let, like, you know, maybe my 6-year-old, I don't know. They might have horrific nightmares. Sometimes you got to do that to help the growth, right? I really, really cherish just like not only the interiors, but like just the direction of it, right? The I don't know if you write horror with like any sort of special like golden rule in it, but this one, it really felt like, hey, don't be a little jerk, because karma can get you really fast. And I loved how we seen that within the story. What inspired this story, or this part of Morsel Presents?
So this one actually started, it's kind of funny. And I will say, I won't say what the creature is. Like, I won't describe it because I think it's fun for people to read it and find out. But if people are curious enough that they want to Google it, it's called a shirimi, and it's actually a Japanese yokai. Like, this is a ghost that they believe in their culture. And so it started because a buddy of mine, who his name's Nathan Bayless, he's a real talented, he's like a artist animator, came to me and he's like, oh my God, he goes, you won't believe this, what I just read about this yokai and what this is. And he sent it to me and I'm like, oh my God, that is so disturbing. And so at first we thought about doing project together, but he kind of jumped the gun and started doing his own story, which, you know, is good. But then we kind of challenged ourselves to, hey, you do your animated short, I'm going to write a comic about it. And so what I loved is, and why I think kind of inspired me, is that the yokai itself, the shirimi, isn't inherently evil by any means. It's like a trickster. It likes to scare people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I would think it would do a pretty damn good job if anybody that saw this on the street of scaring them really badly. And so I wanted to pit, like, okay, you got one trickster versus another trickster. It's like, could he stand up to it? Or, you know, is he going to get a taste of his own medicine? And that's where, you know, that's kind of the nugget of the idea I've got. And then what better time to set it than Halloween?
So let's go ahead, let's pull up the pre-launch. We're going to be dropping the link one more time for everyone that is in chat. Be sure to check it out. Look at it with us, and most importantly, just sign up. It's free. You get a notification when it launches. Let your friends know. Horror is good for all ages. And I love this book. How many books are you going to have in the Morsels Presents series? Like, is it just going to be an ongoing thing, or do you have like a set number in mind?
So I feel like with Morsels Presents, I'm kind of going a little ambitious this year. And so the plan right now is to do 4 issues. Maybe even a Christmas issue. And so each one is what I'm kind of excited about. Maybe this is a little too on the nose, but as I hold here a copy
hold on one
Morsels
second.
Presents.
Let me go ahead. We're gonna boom
right here, just to get a little shot. But what's a lot of fun with this is that I did this the digest size, so it's 5.5 by 8.5 versus your normal comic size. So it's a little bit smaller. It's horror you can take with yourself. But the fun thing is that each issue will be, 15 to maybe 20 pages in the story. They're each going to be individually wrapped in their own issue. And then hopefully, if, it's successful next year, I'll do a collected volume. And we'll see where we go from there. People are still hungry for morsels. I'm more than happy to keep, creating them. But my biggest goal and why I think this is ambitious is that I am planning and have been working on is that each issue is going to be completely done, ready to print before it launches on Kickstarter.
Oh, I love that. And
so,
then that's hard to do for a lot of creators.
And it is. And that's kind of why this idea, I feel like, lends itself. It's a little bit shorter story. It's smaller, shorter production time for, artists, colorists, and so on. I've also tried to spread out the jobs. And so with a lot of these, it takes a lot of time to draw and color. So, Carlos Angeli is basically did all the interior art and inked, which was amazing. Oh my gosh, Lorenzo Scaramalla is our colorist, which he did an amazing job. Justin Birch did the letters, which Justin's my go-to guy for letterers. Not saying there's nobody, there's tons of amazing letterers out there, but I really like working with Justin. He does amazing work. And then Colleen Palmer came in and created our new logo and everything like that, and the cover design. So I feel like I've put together a really talented team with really big coattails that I can ride on. So.
I really, you know, the one thing I loved about this story is like once you read it and you take a look at the cover, like the cover is awesome, but like when you read it and you take a look at the cover again, you're like, damn, there's a lot going on here that I didn't even realize, like the Easter egg. I loved it. Is there any sort of inspiration for the cover? Like, is it paying homage to anything, or is this something you guys kind of created together?
So Carlos did that, and it was just something we kind of created together. And I just had this idea. I think at first was, okay, you know, it's Halloween, they're trick-or-treating. Hey, you know, and I feel like I've seen this kind of concept before. You know, I can't say that necessarily it's, you know, original to me, but like that the characters in the book are, you know, the masks that these kids are wearing. So it's, you know, they're little masks on people to kind of tease what's going on. And like I said, I think it is a lot of fun that when you look at this, you're like, well, okay, it's kids trick-or-treating. But then once you read the story and you go back and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah.
You know, the story was right there in front of me the whole time. And the one that I'm really excited about is that our little guy way in the back is actually kind of a callback to the original cover for Morsels, for the Alex Cormack's cover.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like kind of an undead ghoul, like eating, well, what looks like a bucket full of popcorn, but really was just bugs, guts, and eyes. That's
so cool.
That is awesome. Down on, yeah.
Let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at some of these interiors. Yeah, I love the setting for this. It gave me, such late 80s vibes too. And it's crazy, right? I remember being a kid, and that's like when you knew to get home, right? You see the street lights, you're like, I probably should, you know, pack up the bicycle out of my friend's yard and head home before I get yelled at. Any more days as fathers, I don't think I would be comfortable with my kid like hanging out like who knows where until like street lights are coming on, right?
No, you know, it's amazing how it's kind of gotten maybe worse with each generation, but I agree. You know, being more than mid 80s, I was probably one of the last, you know, we were probably one of the last generations to really kind of have this like freedom, just kind of go do whatever. I mean, I'd be 12 or 13. Hey, can I go on a bike ride? Yeah, sure. Be back in 2 hours. Okay, see ya.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm riding through neighborhoods now that when I look at them, I'm like, probably shouldn't have been riding alone.
One thing I love too, I have glasses. People probably don't realize because I wear contacts, but negative 6.25. It's horrible. It's horrific. And I always wore mask for trick or treat, and this was the struggle, right? You either wore the glasses on the outside of the mask or on the inside of the mask, and it either fogged up or it just looked goofy. And I loved how you guys portrayed that so accurately with this.
You know, I give that all to Carlos. I think I had, and maybe I'd have to look, but like, you know, at first I was kind of having like, oh, he can pull down the masks. And, you know, he suggests, he's like, hey, you know, I think he would have the glasses on the outside. He goes, and I think, you know, now that he has glasses, he just kind of wears mask on top. And so I loved his little touches. And that's what I always find personally, whenever I, you know, find an artist that I'm working with, I always kind of tell them like, hey, you know, unless I have it noted, I mean, of course, every once in a while there are specific visuals that I feel like are important or have to be in there, and, you know, I'll kind of note them. But for the most part, like, I want the artist to come in and kind of put their talents to use and their style into the story. Because otherwise, why hire them? It's not like I'm coming in and saying, hey, draw it, hey, the way I want it. Let's draw it how, you know, I love what you do, you know, make my story what, you know, in your style. You know, so I think Carlos, you know, did a great job in that. And I like his little, you know, flares. I think even too, I always tell him, it's like, hey, maybe I wrote it from this angle, but that's a terrible angle to, you know, have fun with it, change things up. And
I really appreciated the color palette for this. It's like more muted, more dark. and it really puts you in that horror setting perfectly.
Oh yeah, I love what Lorenzo did. He does amazing work, and I love how it feels. So much what I think is that, you know, the monsters in this are very frightening and very somewhat adult, but I feel like it's funny. It's kind of, like the old horror stuff that you have where it's horrific stuff, but it's kind of in a, a way that kids can look at it and they can be scared. It's not, it's not overly, it's not gory by any means. Like, to me, I feel like this is much more, suspense and kind of more insinuating things that are going to happen versus actually showing them. And
the attention to detail is phenomenal too. I mean, right off the rip, you might not think it's a super detailed, interior, but like right here, I mean, the belt, the way the costume is, like, it was just thrown together. I remember those costumes as a kid, but in this scene in particular, you have the fly above the pumpkin. We have like the skirt of the person about to scare him right here in the corner, and then the scratch. I love this part too. This was such an awesome way to flip over to the scare. Dude, it was awesome.
Well, and I even love like that middle panel right there on the page that you're at, and just having the shadow over him, versus seeing anybody scaring him. You're like, oh my god, what's that? And then it's just a punk kid.
Oh man. And then of course we all know the old timer, right? The trucker hat, missing a few teeth, scraggly hair, probably smells of several types of different liquor.
Well, and I think that's kind of my little throwback to, you always got the old timer in slasher movies. They're always like, you're all gonna die, don't go there. Okay, crazy old man. And then they all, they go where they're not supposed to and they all die. So
let's check out some of the character designs as well. What inspired these two? Were they always kind of part of the story when you first started scripting it, or did they get added along the way?
I would say, I think with anything, I always just kind of gave, just kind of a brief description of what I kind of feel, I guess kind of, you got like more of a nerdy kid, and you've got kind of that, preteen, acne coming on the face, bully kind of kid. So I can't say that they are necessarily referenced after anybody specific. But I always, in a weird way, like, I doesn't have to stick with it, but I always kind of feel like a casting director. And it's like, when I'm writing a script, I have maybe a certain actor in mind. And so I'll usually put like, hey, this is kind of the age. Hey, this is how I imagine them, like a Jennifer Lawrence type, or, this type or something like that. But here, I think I just kind of gave a basic, like, age description, kind of, some physical features, and then just kind of let Carlos go from there.
And then we, of course, had the old timer as well. I won't scroll anymore though. If you're interested, hit the pre-launch, hit that sign up, and then you could scroll down yourself. But as far as keeping it geeky, we're not going to spoil that surprise. So you guys, you're going to have to sign up for that pre-launch to find out what that monster is going to look like. Man, J. Michael, with that being said, for anyone who might be on the fence about signing up for the pre-launch, what would you like to say to them, kind of help push them over that hump?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, if you're a fan of Creepshow, Tales from the Crypt, if you just like stories that kind of make you feel icky but kind of are fun, to read, I would say definitely give Morsels Presents a shot. What I'm really excited about this is we got a lot of perks too. Like I said, each issue is going to play with different genres. Each one is its own individual story, so that's kind of fun. Is that okay? Maybe J-horror is not your thing, but slashers are. Maybe slashers aren't, but zombies are. And so on and so forth. And so I think that's going to be a fun thing. The other thing that I've got right now is we're at 138 signups for the pre-launch, and part of that is that I am offering some early bird, our free early bird swag for different tiers that we hit for our pre-launch signups. So right now we've unlocked our first one. So everybody that backs at a physical level in the first 48 hours is going to get a basically the size of the cover, but you're going to get a print of the cover art.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so we're 12 signups away from adding a sticker pack. So some fun little ghouls to stick on your computer, stick on your notebooks, give them to your kids, put them on backpacks. And then, after that, I think we've got if we hit 200, we've got a print of one of the interior pages. So that way you kind of have, a print art of kind of the interiors. But like I said, those are for early birds. So if you back at a physical tier in the first 48 hours, then you automatically are going to get those in with your book when you get them.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And for everyone interested, the links are in chat. If you guys are watching this after the live stream, you can hit the description. The link will be there as well. So Jay, it looks like you have your hands in a couple pots. Are there any other campaigns that you're going to be launching in the near future? Any other books that you're working on currently that you can talk about?
I've got something I probably can't fully talk about. I think I'm waiting for the green light from the editor, but I'm excited because I've got a script in. It's one of the first ones I have in with a publisher project. Like I said, Morsels is going to be 4 issues. So as soon as Morsels Presents One Good Scare, hopefully, fingers crossed, hits its goal, I'll immediately open up the pre-launch page for the next issue and we'll get that going and so on and so forth. And like I said, each one's going to be done, barring any big, problems. I mean, I can't foresee the future, but my hope is to have them ready to print so that way I can get them out the door and in hands of, readers as fast as I can. Because, and I don't say this is fault to anybody, this has been most of my projects, but when you do a little bit of bigger one, there's a lot more budget to go into it and it takes time. And so, we do the Kickstarter to get the money to be able to produce the book. Like, I want this to be a fun way to say, all right, done, here you go. As short amount of time in between as I can. And I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, and then I will say I am in early production for the next issue of my Addison Grove series. So I'm really excited because Carlos Angeli is actually coming on board from One Good Scare, is coming on board to do the interiors on that. So I'm excited to work with him again.
That is awesome. So Jay, I know this is your first time on the show, but outside of diving into who you are as a creator and your work, we always like to ask for a piece of advice for anyone that is watching. So for the creator out there looking to add some variety to their horror, looking to spice things up with their writing within the horror genre, what would be your biggest piece of advice to help them?
Oh man, I mean, I would say you want to take in as much as you can. I think that's as important because it helps you to get inspired and to put out. So, read any type of horror comic you can, watch any kind of horror show, horror movies, read horror books. And honestly, I think what's, I was kind of short-sighted on this, and I've heard from some other great horror writers too, is they talk about read books from other genres. I mean, sometimes it helps for an idea of a mashup, sometimes it just shows you how other people are writing and it helps you grow as a creator, as a writer. And then I would say if you are looking, you don't know where to start with comics, because that's the hardest thing. I still don't really know where to start. There's no one way into the comic industry. Or actually, I'll retract that. I mean, I think the biggest way to kind of get into comics is to make comics. Yeah. But I think what's important is to start small. Find somebody that, you can kind of be buddies with, to collaborate with, to build those collaboration skills, help you grow as a writer, as an artist, do a 3-page story, 1-page story, 5-page story, something like that. And just make comics. Make the comics that you want to read. I feel like that. I feel like if you constantly chase what you think everybody else wants, your heart's not going to be in it the way that it should, and you're just never going to please everybody. And so make the comics that you want to read, and you'll find those like-minded people that want to read them with you.
I love that. And I really love the advice you gave earlier about being just a comic writer, not an aspiring comic writer, just a comic writer. That was I remember taking a class with Amy Chu at the Joe Kubert School, and that was a big thing that she really talked about, was like, if you're writing, you're a comic writer. You know, that's what comic writers do, is they write. So you are one. If you write, if you made a book, you know, you are a comic writer. Like, there's no aspiring about it. So I think it's a lot of it's just mindset, right? Just you have the mindset, put the work in, and then you'll get there. Jay, thank you so much for swinging by. Last but not least, what are you up to outside of creating? What are you watching? What are you reading? If you play video games, what are you gaming on?
You know, video games, I'm kind of gotten back into Madden. I got the new one for Christmas. And then I also have waiting in the wings next are the two Alan Wake games. I've heard really good things about those. Watching, I think me and my wife just finished the second season of Shrinking, which was an amazing show on Apple TV. And we just started Pluribus.
Okay.
And that one has been I mean, every episode's kind of like, what the hell is happening? I mean, in the best possible way. Yeah. I mean, I will say, it's an amazing show. The concept is pretty like out there. But I don't know, Vince Gilligan is doing amazing work on that show. So, which
it's crazy, right? Because he did Breaking Bad, didn't he?
He did do Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I will say I'm open-minded. I'm not gonna say, you know, put it down. The concept of this show is very interesting. It's kept me hooked, and it kind of leaves me like asking what the hell happened at the end of each episode. But I've heard I kind of looked it up to see, I think if he has his way, Vince Gilligan wants to do 4 seasons. And I would be really interested to see how he stretches this concept over 4 seasons. Like, at least right now, it feels like very much like a limited series, kind of gut punch type of, you know, storyline. Yeah. So I'm intrigued to see how it will play out.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes the short and sweet gut punches are exactly what they should be. Sometimes stretching that out a couple more seasons, it loses that punchiness to it. So hopefully we don't see that happen within the series. Jay, once again, thank you so much for swinging by. This was an awesome chat. Everyone that is watching, be sure to sign up for the pre-launch for Morsels Presents One Good Scare. It launches March 2nd, so get that notification while you still can. Hope you all have a fantastic Friday, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.